Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, and welcome to this FAO-UNICEF Lab on how teachers can revolutionize food education in school. I'm Deborah Olarte, and I'm a communications consultant at FAO. I would like to start by thanking you all for joining us today from around the world. We have had so many registrations for this lab. I was told not long ago that we had more than 210. We are very, very happy about this. I know that today we have people from so many countries, from Colombia to Australia, from Canada to the Philippines, going through Nigeria, Ethiopia, Morocco, and so on and so on. And I know that people today are joining for different reasons. Some would like to learn more about a subject that they are already familiar with, while others, because they want to start teaching food education in their schools. I know that others would like to hear about new ideas on how to adapt the current teaching of food, while others would like to raise awareness of healthy lifestyles and better educate both the students and their communities. So thank you again for dedicating some time of your day to this activity, and welcome to all. I would also like to start by thanking all the speakers and experts who will provide their inputs and share their expertise with us. Our colleagues, both at FAO and UNICEF, for collaborating on organizing this event, and of course the World Food Forum for supporting us throughout the organizational process. And as I mentioned, this is a lab, so it's not a seminar and it's not a webinar, and this means that we will provide some information, and this is why we have our experts here today, but we would also like to hear from you, and this is why we have dedicated some sections of the lab to work group. So you can share your experiences and thoughts, and also maybe the challenges that you have encountered in your experience, so we can see together how we can address these issues. And this is also why we couldn't actually accept all the 210 people or more who registered, because we wanted to keep the numbers quite low, and the group quite compact, for you to have the possibility to share the experiences with so many teachers and school staff from around the world. However, we hope to replicate these sessions so that everyone will be able to join in the next occasions. Before starting, I would just like to provide some information and indications. The session is recorded and will be uploaded online, and we may use some parts of this lab for communication purposes, so I hope this is okay with you. I kindly ask you to keep your microphone muted off while you're not speaking, and if you feel comfortable with it, to keep your camera on, especially during the group work and when you are speaking. Finally, I see you already doing this, but there's a chat box, and it will remain available throughout the session. So feel free to use it to share your thoughts as we go. And I would kindly ask you all now to turn on our cameras so we can familiarize with each other's faces and take first a group photo. So if we can see people with their cameras on, and I kindly ask our Zoom master today, who I thank very much, if you can take a group photo and a screenshot. Okay, and without any further ado, I would hand over the floor to Fatima Hachem, Senior Nutrition Officer at FAO, to welcome us all. Fatima, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario. Good afternoon from sunny Rome to all of you, and good day wherever you are. My name is Fatima Hachem, as Dario said. I am the team leader of the group working on nutrition education and consumer awareness in FAO headquarters, Rome. We are pleased to have you today in this event that is jointly organized by FAO and UNICEF. And as Dario said, it's a lab, so it's not about lectures. It's more action-oriented, and this is the approach that FAO and UNICEF are jointly promoting for school-based food and nutrition education. So a little bit about FAO, what we've been doing in the last years, in the last 4 to 5 years. First of all, in 2019, FAO published its framework on food, on school food and nutrition programs, let's say. So we have a framework. And this framework proposes a holistic view to food and nutrition education and to the other activities and interventions in school. So how do we think about what happens in the school? So there are many elements that are supposed to work together so that we produce higher impacts and more long-lasting impacts on the nutrition outcomes of students, on their behavior, on their competencies and skills. So, and also we see the school as a center for catalyzing improvements and progress in the community in terms of economic development and other types of development. So our framework actually has 4 dimensions to it, or pillars if you want to say, but these dimensions are working together. We are looking into the enabling environments in terms of legal and policy environments that affect what goes on in schools. At the same time, we look at school meals and the procurement and the value chains and how these can be nutrition sensitive, working together to improve nutrition for children in schools, but also how they can link to local production and to improving livelihoods of small and family farmers in particular. We also look at, in our framework, at the environment, at the school environment and the food that is available around and inside the school, and how these could be improved to make the outcomes of nutrition better. And also, of course, we have a dimension that is specifically focusing on food and nutrition education. So we are proposing this holistic view not only for FAO's interventions, but as a framework that can guide interventions in countries and in different contexts. So linking what goes inside the school in terms of food and nutrition education to the whole environment and the food system that is that has its own specificities in each place is one of the most important things that we are proposing in this framework. Now, coming to school-based food and nutrition education, in 2020, FAO published a white paper on school-based food and nutrition education, and this was the result of 4 years of work with experts from around the world. And the purpose of the white paper is to put together in one place what are the challenging facing food and nutrition education, why they're not effective, or how can we make them more effective, especially in low and middle income countries. So a lot of expertise went into this white paper, and we have dealt with different levels of we dealt with different situations and stakeholders and levels that affect school food and nutrition education in different contexts, particularly on low and middle income contexts, borrowing from experiences in other countries. So we are proposing to go beyond, of course, the information sharing that has been a very, let's say, a strong stamp that is linked to nutrition education. We are proposing, of course, to go beyond this information, beyond the nutritional knowledge only, and make the education food and nutrition education. And then you will see through the what we are going to propose as activities to you today, the difference between this approach and the approach that focuses on sharing information with students about what food has in terms of nutrients and why it's good for health and not good for health. So in a nutshell, this is our approach, a holistic approach that looks at food and nutrition education in schools beyond the school doors, but also it looks at the different stakeholders that can and should be involved in food and nutrition education. Definitely you are teachers, and it comes to your mind that you are the frontline educators, which is correct. So there is part of the white paper that focuses on your needs and how to assess them and how to work with you to make you equipped with the tools also that you will need to embrace such an approach. So without going further into the explanation of our white paper, we will be looking today at the spirit of this white paper in what concerns teachers. You're coming from different backgrounds, and this is for us not a problem. On the contrary, we would like all teachers to be interested in integrating food and nutrition education in what they do. But to do that, of course, you will need a lot of assistance, and FAO and UNICEF are working together in this area to build capacities of school teachers and beyond. And I will stop here, and I hope that you will enjoy what we will be offering you over this 2.5 hours of this lab. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you, Fatima. Thank you so much for your introduction and welcome. And as you know, and as I mentioned before, and as Fatima mentioned, the lab is organized in partnership by FAO and UNICEF. So I would now like to give the floor to Deepika Sharma, Global Technical Lead on Nutrition for School-Age Children and Adolescents at UNICEF, for her welcome and remarks. Deepika, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario, and thank you, Fatima, for that comprehensive overview. I think my video is not very good, but it's okay. We are here to share experience and learn. And dear all, I would just like to congratulate, I'll be very brief and would like to congratulate you, because today I think we are creating history. It's from you, we are going to learn a lot on what you are doing in your respective schools, in your respective areas. And definitely from our perspective, as Fatima just mentioned, we are going to share some experiences, some tools that will help you, that will assist you in disseminating more powerful school food and nutrition education. I'm from UNICEF, and in partnership with FAO, we have been trying to create a momentum on school food and nutrition education in many countries, involving the governments, the education systems, and the various other stakeholders to support school-based food and nutrition education. And as we all know, and Fatima just mentioned, that school is that platform. And in the school platform, there is an ecosystem. There are school meals, there is the school food environment, there is physical education, and the most important component is school-based food and nutrition education. As we want to empower children, we want to empower the school community and the parents on healthy diets, and so that children can eat safe and nutritious foods. I'll just give you a brief example. Like recently, I think 3 months ago, we had conducted interviews and informal group discussions, as well as a poll with the adolescents, with school-age children, adolescents, and young people. And the most important theme that came out was that all of them felt that they want to know more about food. They want to understand they want to understand nutrition education, and they want to be empowered to eat healthy so that they make the right choices, empowered choices. And I guess the partnership that we have with FAO and the way we are going with Now You All, I'm sure we'll be able to make a dent in the situation so that all children across the world receive safe and nutritious foods. Definitely in your environments, wherever you're working, in the various country backgrounds, in the various schools, you might have experienced a lot of challenges sometimes, and sometimes there are supportive systems. So today we are here to learn more from you, to share whatever little we know about this area. And we have a nice group of experts who are going to share their perspectives and hold our hands as we walk through these next 2.5 hours. So all the best, good luck, and let's learn. Thank you, Dario, over to you.
Thank you, Deepika, and thank you again, Fatima, for your welcoming. And it's great to hear how FAO and UNICEF are working together to enhance the impact of food and nutrition education in schools. Our next session will focus on how to make food education more engaging and meaningful, both in the classroom and beyond. We will hear of a new vision and model of school-based food and nutrition education, of good examples of activities and materials, of the role that teachers can play, and actually of the challenges that teachers may face. Melissa Vargas is a nutrition consultant here at FAO. She is our next speaker, and she will introduce us to a new vision and model of school-based food and nutrition education. Melissa, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario, and thank you very much, Fatima and Deepika, for this wonderful introduction. I actually am super excited because this is the first time that, as we mentioned, that we have you with us. This is actually our trial, our test, so we can, hopefully we can enjoy of these labs at least once or twice a year. But we hope that you are with us and that you serve us to have a little bit of more interaction, and also to tell us what can we improve at the end of this lab. We are also very happy to have all your insights in order to improve our approach and the guidance that we are building. So today I will just guide us through some of the points that Fatima was mentioning. And let me see if you can see my screen. Yeah, okay. So I wanted to start talking about why food education. And I can talk a lot about how many children in the world are obese, how many girls in the world are anemic, hunger in the world. I can talk about how the food that we produce is 1/3 is wasted. I can talk a lot of problems regarding food. But in reality, we all are here because we are believers in food education. So I don't want to convert and to talk to the ones that are converted already. So in reality, I just wanted to look at what you told us. You told us that food education is important because it can help children with better diets and their families. We can also teach and support children and communities to understand the impact of food on climate, on animal welfare and health. These are all your own words. You said that it's important, food education, to have life skills that are important for a better life. There was a lot on what you shared with us regarding how many times what counts in schools is academic performance, but really schools are a place to support children to acquire these skills that will accompany them to have a healthier and better life. Also, you talked about better societal values, how food education plays a role into shaping future citizens, and of course, healthier lifestyles. So in reality, we all know why food education is important. We all know why we want to be a better, to be more involved in it, and to raise its value and to raise its protagonism. So we had the same feeling, and we had the same energy. And some years ago, we started thinking about how we can improve the way that food education is done. We have a focus on low and middle income countries, but we cater with guidance to all countries, all member countries in the world. And we started thinking, we did a very long process, as Fatima mentioned, and we started looking at what the evidence said, what the experts said, what were the main challenges. We did a lot of finding out. We spent a lot of time finding out. And then we got together and we started thinking, well, it's important that in the majority of the countries that we serve as FAO, as UNICEF, as United Nations, food education is already there. In the majority of the countries, there is some sort of food education present. But what we see is that food education needs to go beyond what was in the curriculums at that moment. We needed to have a new vision that was in line with the needs for the world that we are living right now, for the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So we got together and we started discussing, and we came up with what the vision that we want to have with food education, which is food competent, reactive and proactive children and adolescents, and families that contribute to a population of health promoting and more sustainable food practices and outlooks. What we mean to have motivations or to have the perceptions that will help us to maintain these practices. So we also in this process let's say we had this North Star, this vision, and then we started designing a model that was fit for this vision. So you will see here is a very nice diagram. Maybe you will not see all the details, but as Dario mentioned in the beginning, we will send you after this, we will send you a Dropbox link with all the materials that we are talking about today. So you will have it all, you will have this poster as well. And just to talk a little bit about this, it's how the processes of food education need to be aligned for this 2030 vision. So, for example, we have you see some blocks in the lower circle, which is more about the process of how do we start or how do we improve, because we know that the majority of curriculums have some sort of food education. So we have different processes, understanding what the main issues of children are, because we know that food education should not be generic and should not be the same for everybody. We need to understand what the nutrition problems are, but also the education problems. What are the social norms regarding food? What are the main priorities that we are facing regarding the values of food, for example? Then, of course, is the definition of competencies, because we don't want only that children can tell us about which nutrients are important and why, or how we need to eat healthier or varied, but we actually want them to do that. And we actually want them to act on this, to have the skills to be able to do specific things or have specific skills by the end of their primary or secondary school. So we are aiming at action. We are aiming at learning by doing, not only to memorize, not only to understand, but really to have the tools that they need in order to put that into action. We also have, of course, all the processes of curriculums, of planning of lessons, of planning of activities, and whole monitoring of how to understand if the children themselves, they need to understand how they are progressing, what is important to them, how can they recognize the progress. So we have this whole model that you can see is more about the design process. But in reality, what we really, really like about this model is the top part. Is the top part that we are seeing as let's say, as a path of how children and adolescents learn about food. We know that it's not about maybe only a subject that you need to, at the end of the day, monitor or have a test about it. We know that food is personal, food is everywhere, and we need a food education that is aligned with food in real life. We need skills to be developed through hands-on learning, through everyday practice, through discussing, through analyzing, criticizing, to understand what we do in the house. And of course, to have an environment. We also work on a political environment that can allow to children and adolescents to put this into action. So we have this model, and all of our guidance is based on this, and it's really showing how the children are in different steps of the learning process. It's not a linear process, but we show how the different parts, like the activities or learning materials or teachers, or even the food environment, the kind of food that children have, marketing, the parents, peers, all of these, how they are in the different parts of the learning process. So this is important. We here wanted to give you some tools and a little bit of a new thinking for some. For others, of course, it will be what you already do. But we looked at what you said, and we looked at what we offer, and we had a lot of things in common. So today, different presentations and different activities and sessions, or the tools that we will leave with you after, we are going to focus on what works and what doesn't, of course, for what purposes. We will focus on opportunities for action. how to put the different materials that we have available, that maybe we can give it a new life, like trying to reuse them, but with an action purpose. We want to co-create with students. This is something that is really now very, very popular, but we really want to go from popular to action. We really want to co-create the type of food education that students want and need. We are going to talk about whole of school and holistic approaches. We're going to hopefully get inspired by a lot of, we have 3 very good examples from around the world, and we hope that we can get inspired by them. And of course, progressive approaches. So this is actually your words, and we are very happy that we are aligned. Now, we want to talk a little bit of what is the role of teachers in this model. And as you can see, some of these processes that I talked about depend more about, let's say, the policies of Ministry of Education, or in other countries, maybe of Ministry of Health, or a little bit more high level, maybe the curriculum is already decided and we cannot really move outside from that curriculum. So first, the first thing that we feel that the role of teachers can be is to adapt the curriculum or the extracurricular activity that we are working in to the children that we have through our own little classroom, or the type of students that we have, because we know them much more than anybody else. And of course, for a national or a regional level curriculum, is very difficult to adapt, no? So this is the first thing that we can do to ensure that the lesson plans or the activities are really fit for our children. And this is, we mean something informal, we mean understanding their situation, how can we use their real lives every single day and their circumstances to help them adapt and learn according to this. We can also, of course, and this is going to be the focus of today, we can also design learning programs, learning sets of activities that are aligned with the competences or the learning objectives that are set by the structure that we are working in. Or we can use existing materials or existing activities, but we can give them new twists in order to make them a little bit more effective, more engaging, more dynamic. But I think that the main role of teachers is really to support children in their own journeys. I think that teachers are the ones that will really help them to navigate this journey, this food process. We call them foodways because there are the pathways of food, or how they learn, what type of activities they have, how do they take that to the household, if we can involve the parents, and how all of this, I think, is where the change happens. And it's actually the main reason why we are having you today. We have worked with a lot of ministry staff, we have worked with policymakers, but this is the time that we want to hear back from you, because we know that you are the main implementers, you're the front line, you are the ones that are going to make it happen. Of course, we understand, and you can let us know in the chat. You can let us know a lot about the challenges that you face. We have done some studying and some studies and some reporting, and when we work with the different governments, we have seen that there are challenges, of course. For example, sometimes there is leadership, for example, for school meals, but food education gets a little bit lost in that, or it's not really specific to food education per se. Sometimes we know that the learning materials that we have are not for our context, and it's very time consuming to adapt them. We know that the curriculum is very limited, the time is a lot of competition for other subjects. We know that sometimes the mandate is we don't know if it's in the Ministry of Education, Health, in another institution, in another ministry. Sometimes it's difficult because it's the food education is across the whole set of subjects in the curriculum, and then it sort of trickles down or gets lost in it. So it's very difficult to have a coherent set of lesson plans, for example. And also we know that there are not a lot of incentives for training, and for or maybe there is just one training, and then we don't have any more. So we know, and we are working with these challenges, and today is part of this. So we are hoping to hear from you as well. Okay, so here we want to start the activity first. We want to support you in having this type of food education, progressing to it, because it's not that we are trying to transform everything in once. We're trying to do something gradual, and then we can see if this works and how to tailor it and to tell the world about that. So what can we do considering the challenges? Okay, we can advocate for change with local authorities. We can support you with different types of evidence information on how this needs to be brought higher up. As I mentioned, we can support with a simple understanding of where students are and their interests regarding food education. We can design lesson plans or activities that together can help achieve specific competencies. We can be critical about existing activities and materials. We can extend and help children and students, adolescents extend their learning beyond the classroom. And then we can have simple ways of assessing progress. So here we have a little tasting. And Tomás, I will ask you to help me with some polls. The first, we are going to present you with different real life activities. We got them from real life. And we want to see how we can be a little bit more critical about the specific activities of food education. We want to first consider, okay, what is the criteria for success for this or that activity? We know that one activity is not enough, but we can say this activity will help a specific competence, or maybe it will help other skills that are not really aligned with food education. We can say if these are hands-on or if these are just memory-based or knowledge-based. Do they actually practice? Do they actually discuss? Do they extend the learning to the household? All of this can be part of why we can be critical with activities. And then the how we use these activities, the how we use materials. This can also make or break the effectiveness of food education. So we are going to, for each case, we are going to have a little poll. Okay, we have two. Let's see if we can see the poll here. Yeah, okay, perfect. And the second one, that one that says Melissa. 1 second. Meanwhile, Tomás changes it. Okay, here you will have two materials that are meant to help food education for small children, and they are integrated in maths. So can you let us know if you think that these types of activities, for example, children count how many apples are in a tree, or they color only the healthy foods? Do you think that these type of activities can help small children to prefer fruits and vegetables? And then you have your options. So you can vote. And I will give you a minute to vote. Let's see. And then when you're ready, Tomás, we can see the results. Okay, perfect. We have the results. So 58 of you said not really. Okay, not really. Some of you said maybe, some of you said I'm not sure, some of you said definitely. So in reality, there is no wrong answer. In reality, we know that these type of activities, they need to be accompanied with something else. So for example, we can count apples, but that doesn't mean that the child will go back and say, I want an apple. It means that they can count, no? And also when they can color healthier and healthier, it may help them to recognize, but it mostly will help them to color probably. So we really need to do something with these activities. Now we're going to go to the next one. Okay. Tasting and sharing. And I have a lot of colleagues from Food Ed here, so I'm sure that they will think something about this. Okay, the activity is describe and taste different ways carrots and tomatoes can be prepared. So it can be in the school where they have different ways carrots and tomatoes can be prepared. Children need to taste and describe. They're not obliged to taste, but they can see the different ways. They can tell you what are the tastiest versions. They can tell you how can they help in the house to prepare the ones that they like the most at home. And then they do a little experiment in the house and then they share back in class. So go ahead and vote on this. What do you think about this activity? Would they help small children to start preferring fruits and vegetables? I'll give you another minute. Maybe we can start seeing. Okay, can we see the results? Definitely. Okay, 68% said definitely. Well, we see the change. No, we see the change in before and after. We are actually trying to go into that objective of actually having them taste and having them try and having them describe and through their own experiences to put that in practice. It may sound simple, but in reality, creating lesson plans that are progressive with this type of activities is not that simple. So it's something just to help us to get into this state of mind. Okay. So the next one is memorize what nutrients are found in each food group. And I repeat, these are all real life cases. This is for more middle school. Make an essay on why they are important of the nutrients and what are their main functions. So Tomas, if you can put the third poll. So do these type of activities help older school children to eat according to the country's dietary guidelines? The dietary guidelines, for those of you that are not familiar, are the way that a country says this is a healthy diet. And then they have pyramids or plates or different types of how you can see how to eat better. So you go ahead and vote. Do you think this type of activity will help older school children to eat according to these guidelines? Let's give it a minute. It's nice to see all of your faces. Okay. Okay, Tomas. They're probably not, and maybe. Okay, this is great. We have a lot of no right or wrong answer, and in reality, it's true. Maybe it really may be. We know that only having to memorize or even to know very well I just remind you to have your mics on mute. 1 second, because we're just hearing. Okay, thank you. And we know that we all know what foods are better for us. That doesn't mean we eat like this every single day. So it's the same process, and the evidence tells us really information and knowing more does not equal doing. So we really need to understand if this is going to go in together with different activities that will help adolescents and older school children to really not only recognize, not only understand, but to put into practice. What can they do outside? What forces impedes them to eat like this? Okay, so we will go to the last one. Okay, and then we have an activity. Arrange for students to eat lunch in the classroom. Give each student a disposable plastic container. And after lunch, have students put any remaining food in the plastic container. They take turns to weigh the food that they wasted. They record it, and then they calculate the total loss of food, the total waste of the classroom. And then they record that. Then a few days later, they tell the students that they will be repeating the activity, and then they compare. Okay, so we go to the next poll. Okay, so do these type of activities help students to start reducing food waste? Okay. Okay. Now we can see the results. Okay, we cannot see. Okay, let's give a thumbs up if you think yes, or a thumbs down if you think no. Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, because they're putting it into practice. They're putting it into practice. So of course we know that one is not enough, but they are the types of activities that will help to actually achieve the change. Okay, so just to conclude, because I know that my time is running out. So it all depends on the aim. If we want an action aim, if we want to go beyond knowledge, we really need to start thinking about which type of activities and materials will help us to go there. We also need to start thinking about the context. Of course, it's very different to have let's say to teach children about food education in context where they have crisis or they have a lot of food insecurity or obesity. Is very different, but we can adapt. Not one activity is enough, so let's try to, if we can, to offer as we can, let's say in different lessons, talking with other teachers, if we can have a whole component of activities for one, at least one action aim, and then we need to activate what we have, and Cristina will talk to you about that. So I just wanted to remind you, all of the activities today will be shared with you after this. We're going to hopefully have the list of your contacts in order to share more with you, and we hopefully have you with more trainings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa, for laying the groundwork, for introducing us to this new vision, and actually for launching the first interactive activity. And it's now time to get our hands dirty again, and even more, because we know that we often face limitations and constraints to what we can do, but there are also ways in which we can work inside the boundaries that we have and still make a difference, still make an impact. Cristina Alvarez is a nutrition consultant at FAO. She's our next speaker, and she will explain how to achieve impact by activating existing food education materials. And then we will put this into practice, what Cristina will explain, by working in smaller groups. So Cristina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dario, and hello, everybody. Just going to share my screen. Let me. You can see it fine, right? So hello again, everybody, and welcome to the activity Activating Food Education Materials. And this builds off the presentation given by Melissa. This activity is based on theme 6 of the school-based food and nutrition education white paper that Melissa and Fatima talked about. And now there are many considerations in choosing and using activities and materials for food education. And these considerations are all covered in the white paper, but we'll not have time to delve into these specifics. So we're just going to discuss and have a small activity on how we can activate existing materials to have a higher impact in food practices. But before the activity, I would like to present a few slides about how we can activate materials. Now, typically by food education materials, we refer to two things. One thing is the learning materials, such as the teachers and students' books, and also the lesson plans, etc., but also the resources and inputs that are used for the activities. For example, Melissa used a few materials for the activities that she just ran us through. And today we are going to focus actually on those resources, on the inputs that are used for activities. Now, there is a wide range of food education materials. I'm sure that you're familiar with many of those. There, for example, posters, videos, pictures, dietary guidelines, songs, and along, etc. And the majority of these are motivational and informative, but they tend to involve little action and practice. But what really matters is not really the kind of material that we use, or not as much as how we use it. For example, we have to be critical about what is this input or material good for, what will learners do with it, and what will it lead to. That is, what is the potential that this material has to be used in an activity. And in the choice of materials and their activation through activities, it is important that we always keep in mind that they should encourage the habit. For example, washing our hands before eating, as opposed to just like memorizing. That washing hands is important, and also the materials and the way we use them promote learning through actions and experience. Typically, as Melissa mentioned, and this is something that we see a lot in lower middle income countries, not so much in higher income countries, but food education activities and the materials that are used to activate them focus primarily on explaining the rationale behind a behavior or having children memorize facts. Whereas in the action-oriented learning model that we are trying to promote, materials used as an input for fit-for-purpose activities are activated, and they involve observation, motivation, action, interaction, habit formation, and they also have students take responsibility over their own learning and acquisition of food practices. And I wanted to show you an example of a video, and then of how it could be activated. This is a video that just came out. It was co-created between DreamWorks and the United Nations and FAO for the 2021 International Year of Fruits and Vegetables, and it's for small children. And now our Zoom master, Thomas, is gonna share it with us. We're all going to watch the video together. It's really nice, really cute. I don't know how many of you have seen it. Raise your hands. Dalia is in it. Yenory is in it. Okay, go for it, Thomas. Deepika is.
For the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables, the United Nations, FAO, and the Trolls have a few suggestions.
What we need is a plan.
All right, let's do this.
Step 1, eat more fruits and vegetables.
It makes you want to snap your fingers and tap your toes.
Step 2, eat all kinds of fruits and vegetables, every size and color.
Wow, that's great. The more the merrier.
Fruits and vegetables sometimes come in funny shapes. They're just as delicious and nutritious.
They are all different. And this one looks a little bit like me.
And step 3, don't let them go to waste.
Yes! That wasn't so hard, was it?
Be happy and healthy like a troll.
Hug time! Hug time!
Let's work together to build a healthier planet.
Woo!
Go to the United Nations Act Now campaign.
Peace and love. Honey and Daddy out.
Thank you, Thomas. Now I need to go back to, yeah, I'm back, right? I think so. Okay. Yeah, this is a lovely and wonderful video to use with the small children, but unless we just limited to watching it with kids, the impact that it can have on having them be interested in eating more fruits and vegetables maybe small. So, I mean, some suggestions that I could give you on how this video could be activated could be, well, first of all, to watch the video with children. And second, we could have the children themselves think about their behaviors in relation to what is talked about in the video, and they can themselves suggest ways that they can improve their practices. They can together as a class come up with an agreement on something, an action that they could take together. They could sign a contract so they can show commitment, and they could actually share that commitment with their parents and invite them to participate. And lastly, they could report back in class, what went well, what was difficult, and how they can sustain the practice. These are just some suggestions. I'm sure that US teachers have a lot of other ideas of how a video like this could be activated. So now we're gonna move on to the actual activity, where you all are going to be divided into four assigned groups. You're gonna work on one specific material, and you'll see which one it is in a minute. And in your group, you have to watch or read the material. You have to choose a person, a rapporteur for your group, and together you have to come up with 3 suggestions on how this material could be activated or used meaningfully in a classroom setting. And you're gonna those suggestions on in a Jamboard slide. I'm gonna show you that in a second. And in plenary, then you'll have 1.5 minutes, each one of you, to report your suggestions. So you have 10 minutes for the activity, and then 1.5 minutes per group to report back. Now I need to share with you. I'm gonna show you the Jamboard to see how it works. So you're gonna be invited to one of 4 groups, and each group, you're gonna be in either room 1, 2, 3, or 4. And in your group, you'll have to watch or read the material, and then you can add sticky notes. All of you, we're gonna share the link to the Jamboard with you. And as a group, you have to agree on 3 actions to activate the material. So you could write, action 1, and then you post your sticky note, and then you can, so you do the same for the 3 of them, okay? Is that clear? Any questions before we move on to the breakout rooms? And I'm gonna delete this one. Yeah, so if you have any question, you can ask me right now, or you can ask through the chat box, and one of us will be in each one of your groups in case you have any questions. So now, if Thomas, if you can send us to our groups. Hi, everybody, and welcome back. Did everybody have time to finish the activity? Yes, raise your hands.
We didn't have quite enough time to finish because it took us a little while to figure out that we needed to follow to the link ourselves to get the video going, but.
All right, that was, yeah, I guess the video took a little bit more time than, the rest of us where we just had a poster. So I guess that was, that was more challenging than the other one. So, very excited to hear what you came up with. So now we're gonna have 1 person per group to report on the suggestions for activating the materials. And I'm gonna call, I was in group number 1, so we're gonna have one of our team members, Marty, report on our suggestions. That if I may ask, Dario, could you, should I share the Jamboard, or?
You're free to do it yourself, otherwise we can do it for you. As you prefer.
Yeah, and then, so Marty, be ready to describe very briefly our material, and then the 3 top suggestions. Meanwhile, I'm gonna share this.
Thank you. Okay, can I start now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
No. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. It is about a poster that helps us to find 5 portions that we could be eating every day from fruit and vegetables. And it took us a while, a little bit, to discuss more or less which possibilities of activities that we can include. The first one we chose is we can use this poster to include at least 5 vegetables in rainbow salad cooking activity. The second activity that we also choose was we can ask children to pick their favorite fruit and vegetables and come up with a recipe. And the third one is to need to provide enough variety of fruits and vegetables in the school to ensure all children and or students that they have can have access that that volume and variety of for a volume and variety of food. All these things is about including them into the classrooms at schools. So basically, the whole idea is to have this poster display in the classrooms and promote or make it provoke the ideas, the activities for them to be integrating a healthy plate in their food. That's basically what we come upon, although there were more good also activities that could be integrated. I hope I am on time.
No, you did great. Thank you very much, Marty. So now we're going to move to group number 2. I see there are lots of suggestions. And who is going to be reporting on behalf of group number 2?
We didn't choose, but maybe Jason or Jason or anybody from the group. Go ahead.
Like unmute yourselves and describe your material very briefly and your top suggestions.
Jason, maybe I will put you on the spot.
Hi, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we were just talking about the importance of the washing hands, which we were saying, needs to be done before any food education session is done. And just in our experience, we do that a number of times over a number of lessons, just so it gets into the heads of the children how important that is before you do anything else, before any exciting things you do with it. Really good suggestion there is maybe a video to support the poster that we have. That we've got there, so that people can see the practical ways of doing it. It does need to be really, really practical. A poster won't suffice. Children just don't get it with the poster. But if you have a practical session, talks about maybe getting children in a classroom with a bowl or in a hall, and it being modelled by the teachers as well, so that they can show the children how to do it, and then stopping children that are doing it really well, stopping the class saying, look at this child here, how they're doing it, can you demonstrate that? A really good suggestion about the poster itself, and saying, because at the moment it says, do you know how to wash your hands? It's that kind of the importance of washing it. Modify the poster and make it more inviting for the calls for action for children to do it. Just the experience that we've had is those kind of difficult bits that children don't, or adults don't often do with washing your hands, especially kind of areas 8 and also the wrists as well, just making sure that that's done and going through that, because that's not a normal way. That's not how every, apart from surgeons and people who are in food ed, will wash their hands. So I'm modeling that really well. And then younger children actually showing the older children how to do it, so that they are kind of mini teachers and saying, this is how we wash our hands. You can model that as well. I think that might be everything that is on there. Yes, taking it home as well and getting the children to show their parents how to wash their hands as well properly. I've had that with my own child, actually. My youngest child who came home and showed me how to wash our hands properly. Very proud of the fact that they've got that skill. So I think, I think that covers everything, Melissa, I think.
Thank you.
That's excellent. I love the one on taking the poster home and showing your parents and your family. That's excellent. Thank you very much, Jason. So now we're going to move to room number 3, group number 3. And who is going to report on behalf of this group. And this was a relatively difficult material with lots of pieces of information in it.
Cristina, the same with the previous group. We didn't get to choose a rapporteur. We actually went through the different slides, but perhaps we had some great team members. We have Dalia or Andrew, if you would like to add what we included in here. If not, I will be happy to do so.
Okay, so Yenory, would you like to report on behalf of your team? Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Well, we went through this material. It has a lot of info on it, from the what and why and some tips. So the idea is how these tips can become more actionable in a classroom, in a food education session. So one is to definitely consider cooking classes in where the main ingredients are leftovers. So how they can do these cooking classes at schools and then take these ideas at home. So go beyond the classroom. The other one, which was mentioned, was composting education. Another one was exploring the food environments, so that these adolescents can explore, observe how much food is wasted in school canteens, restaurants, farmers market, and provide suggestions on how to make a difference. And the other one was about, we can ask them to weigh food left and see who have less food weight. So sort of like a food competition in there. Children and adolescents like that as well. So that was our main contributions. Thank you.
It's great, very exciting to see all these creative suggestions. And now we're gonna move to room number 4. And I see lots of different suggestions too. Who's reporting on behalf of this group? It's a quiet group.
We didn't actually select someone. That was something else we forgot to do. But if the group's happy, I'll try and summarize, because I've put a few up, if that's all right, people.
Yeah, please, Eve. Yeah.
Please do. Yeah, please do.
Okay, so growing either in school or in your local community, and linking into community gardens where there's local expertise, agriculture workshops, maybe visiting farms where there's primary production happening. So there's that direct kind of real world learning context and connection to food. There's the blue one here about a unit of work on understanding food systems, tracing food supply chains from farm to fork. So from that primary production processes through transport and storage, processing, packaging, retail, etc. And in terms of changing our food system, the video itself was it started out with population. So the kind of like the framing of that video was in the number of people that need to be fed. So there was one here which is about, you could use an example of, or ask the kids to explore how to share a resource fairly. Like, here's a box of fruit, and how many people have we got in the room? Does everybody want some? Can everybody get some that want some? What happens if other people come in from another class? How do we manage fair sharing between us, and sort of exploring issues around that? Looking at seasonality in different regions, and how does that link to availability of food and eating seasonally, so the carbon reduction that's linked to that. And then another one here, because about changing our food system in relation to reducing the impact and the drivers of climate change, or the carbon emissions. So looking at snacks, because snacks are something that children, young people have a little bit more direct control over. So exploring what is a low carbon snack, how do I make one? What does it taste like? Can I share one? Can I try a bit of yours? And have a week on focusing on low carbon food, at the end of which they come up with a number of options for a low carbon snack, and making it even something as simple as like a flapjack, or which you can flavour up in many different ways. And that kind of extend to One Planet Picnic, which is a resource that we have here, Keep Scotland Beautiful, which is a very flexible presentational framework to support people to start to look at the environmental impacts of their food choices and to have a go at reducing them in a very informal kind of way. That's me, and that's the group.
Wow, that was impressive, Eve. Thank you very much. And in the interest of time, we'll have to move on to the next segment. But let me just thank you all for a wonderful job. I love the creative ways that you've thought about how these materials, some of them are, we are very familiar with some of these materials, and like the 5-a-day poster, but you've been able to come up with lots of suggestions on how children can use them to observe, be critical about the environment around them, start on new practices, commit to new things, taking things home and sharing them with their families. And this is great. And I hope you keep this mindset when you go back to your classrooms and are confronted with food education materials. And we can share these slides if you would like to. So thank you very much, and over back to you, Dario.
Thank you, Cristina, and welcome back to everyone after this group session. And I actually hope this practical session you were inspired with some ideas that then you can apply in the work with your students in your everyday lives. We'll now keep the focus on what teachers can do in their own context, and Jane Sherman will help us with this. Jane has an educational background, and so she knows exactly what it's like to work within the constraints that teachers face every day when working. So let's hear from her who a critical food education teacher is and what they can do. Jane, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me see if I can get my screen up. Okay, can we see that? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm really fascinated to hear everything that's been going on, and I wanted to sort of focus on what exactly do we do when we do food education. Particularly because as everybody's been speaking about activities, what activities do we do, and and everybody's also implied somehow that the activities link up into sequences and result in a sort of in some kind of outcome that we hope will persist and remain and so forth. So my question is, what direction do we go? And here we've got all the directions: inward, forward, backwards, alongside, upwards, or outwards, or I don't think we've got downwards. Okay. So just to start, I'd like to ask you to choose one thing that you do yourself for food education, or a project or a lesson or a theme that you do, or that you would like to do, which you think is really important, which aims at some sort of better food practices and perceptions. And I'm doing vegetables, so you can't take that one. We've had a lot on vegetables. And at the end of this particular short session, you'll be asked to send in the chat the name of your food education project or theme, plus one thought about what you do or could do to make it work in the directions that I'm going to discuss. And I hope we'll get a few minutes to do that later in the program. I think I have to negotiate it with Melissa and Dario. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to say is inspirational, really. Food education is just different from anything else that anybody ever does at school. And I've worked in all sorts of fields in my life, and this is different. Because no subject involves quite so much of life. Personal tastes, values, beliefs, culture, costs, convenience, profits, and persuasion from advertising, consumer awareness, the whole household food cycle, the whole food system, lots of politics. It's all there. So there's something for every age, and every vision, every perception is in food education. And also the heart is in it because people love their food. And nothing has so much educational potential as food education. It is foundational, it's protective, and people keep on forgetting how defensive it has to be against what the risks that are out there. It's extremely motivating, or it can be. It can be intergenerational, can be passed on from parents to children, from children to children, and it can get real results. You keep on saying it's the front line. This is the real health front line. So it's exciting, is all I wanted to say at the start there. Now, here's a picture of us. How do I get rid of this picture of all of us here? Can I do that? Can this go down? No. Sorry, there we are. Okay. Yes, okay. So as you can see, we're right in the middle of this sort of rather womb-like thing, this kind of circle in the middle. That's where the teachers are. And the teachers are in the school. They're in an institutional. They have an institutional framework looming over them, or ignoring them, or taking notice, or whatever it is it does. And here come the children walking down the food path from their homes to the school. And all the way along that path, they're learning about food in some way, from somewhere, before they get to school. And when they get to school, it goes on. It goes on round to the right here, where the food system impinges on them, the infrastructure, the food infrastructure impinges on them, government regulations, they all have some effect upon what children eat and buy and do and like. It's the closest people in the picture are the markets and the vendors and eateries, places where they go to eat. And on the left here, we have all the social outlooks and practices which are influencing them at the same time. And the closest people there are the family and the peers and the community. And the question is, all of these things affect what children eat and what they like and what they think is good. And the question is, what happens as the children go through the school? How does that change the pathway that is going on all the time outside? So here we are. All these arrows indicate an infinite number of studies that have been done on what influences children and what drives children and students in what they choose to eat. Now, this is the worst, this is the bad side of the place that we're in at the moment in this sort of, in this classroom. We have what's hitting the children, what's hitting us is the food system, which is largely ruthless. Government action affects us, but it's often under-resourced and not very good at self-promotion. And quite a lot of the posters that we've seen are things which have been put out and have not been adequately used. Then we have the food-related infrastructure, which is always something wrong with it, okay? There's the school meals and the food gardens and the refrigeration and the water and the transport and the shops and the food deserts and the services. That is the Ministry of Education, the health services, the school meals. Sometimes they're completely indifferent and don't connect at all with food education in the school. And then the worst thing we can say about social practices is they are inertial, they are custom bound, there are misconceptions, they're fixed habits, they're captive to junk food. And sometimes you have a whole swathe of parents who are completely indifferent to what the school does and sometimes even hostile, as Jamie Oliver discovered. Now, the same thing is that this all applies to the children's food education before they come to school and which goes on while they're at school. And all of that is getting much more time and much more attention and much more practice than a school can ever give them. Food education cannot compete with this. So that's the worst picture we can see. So here we have at the bottom of the page, we have despair. But On the next page, we have hope, because one really good thing about the food system is that it gives us enormous quantities of high quality learning resources, beautiful packaging, lovely advertisements, prices which are, you know, slashed and so on. It's a treasury. Any child can walk out of school and get something to bring into school to show them what the food system is at. And it's so clearly out to get to us, you know, once we've realized that, once children have realized that, they begin to realize the need for self-defense. And it opens up many questions about where the food comes from, the marketing of it, the source, the processing, etc. And above all, what's outside the school provides settings for and occasions for our own food actions, because every action which is to be enacted has to be practiced in the food environment in some way. It may be the home, it may be the shop, it may be, you know, the snack bar, but it's got to go outside the school at some point. And the government also, moving over to here, has also got a lot of powerful educational tools. And we saw some of them already in the posters. And a lot of important laws and regulations, which never seem to penetrate the food education curriculum. You know, restrictions on advertising. You don't see the bad adverts, so you don't know that they're not there. And food fortification hardly ever appears in school curricula, taxes, etc. For the older students, it seems to me they ought to be there. The same with the food infrastructure. We've talked about washing hands, talked about snack bars. All of them are places where children can watch what's going on, assess what's going on, take action. And of course, they have plenty to complain about. And they all beg for links with education, with food education, and very often they don't get them. So some more. Equally, what parents and community do, we always seem to treat it as something where we have to tell them what to do. In fact, they know what to do. They have a huge repository of knowledge, know-how and skills. People outside the school know where to go to shop, know where the prices are. And everybody has a lot to learn at home from family, because in the family they can cook, and a lot of teachers can't cook, she said quickly. And they provide, in fact, a source of learning for the teachers who need to know what's going on out there. And the home is providing views and practices which the children have to be able to voice in order for them to develop their own stance. And above all, from a practical point of view, it's a home. Most homes have kitchens, equipment, and store cupboards. And the school, many schools don't. And it seems quite obvious that, you know, if you're going to learn to cook or you're going to learn to do something with food, you do it at home, above all. The same is true for what children have already learned. They've already had a food education before they come to school. They know everything about food, they think. And it's on that we build. So we have to know what they think. We have to know what they do before we can start to talk about what it means. Okay, so that's the best of the thing. So I just stick to the right-hand side here. We need to use food environments much, much more than we do, I think. We need to, and I think what we have to do is to make the classroom the place where the children learn to use their food environments. The classroom is the kind of powerhouse, more than the education center. Education takes place outside. Okay, so it works like this. Instead of the arrows going all in and affecting us, the arrows go out as well. People go outside the school and look at what's going on there and come back to the classroom and say, this is what's going on. And the teacher says, oh, that's interesting. What do we do about it? And why don't we try this? And children say, oh, we can't do that. It's no use. So we'll try this instead. So they go out of the classroom again, and then they come back and report the next time. So basically, what you do is activate the whole classroom, the whole program, not just the particular item of material which takes place in the program. Okay, so now these are the various directions, 8 directions in which food education can go. Can go inwards, you look at yourself and your own society, or children look outwards at food environments, and so does the teacher, and they observe and they ask and they act, they find things out there. You go forwards, you take action, slowly, step by step, towards a goal. You go backwards. In the classroom, you repeat, you recycle, you review the progress. You go alongside. The teacher goes along with you. If you have to go home and eat another vegetable, so does the teacher. And above all, I think you go upwards, because you have to, food education has to be visible. You have to tell people about what you know and what you've learned and what you can do. And you have to tell the institution you're in as well. And the parents have to be involved in it. Parents have to go along with the whole program. So these are the 6 directions in which I'm asking you to think where your own lesson or theme or project could go, where it's not going already, or where you are going already and you'd like to share it. I think I'll just skip this one because I think I'm running out of time. Just to reiterate this bit on the left here, most action in food education is taken by the children or the students. The classroom is the power center for understanding what they've learned, reviewing what they've learned, planning and preparing for what they're going to do. Okay, now, oh yes, this is my favorite metaphor. Food education is like gardening. It's a mix of seeing and doing. You grow specific practices, here they are, and capacities and skills and self-confidence from a stratum of knowledge, experience, and perception. They both have to be built. The capacities and the practices and the knowledge and the experience. Okay. So I'll just illustrate very briefly from a school project on vegetables, which is featured in at this link, I think which Dario will send out to you. And while I'm doing that, that's the last part of this talk, could you send in on the chat the name of the project that you're interested in, or your lesson or your theme, and just one thought about what you do with it, or you could do with it in any of these directions, which I'm just going to illustrate now. And then we'll review it later, what you say. So in this particular project, the project engages, before starting, the project engages parents and school and community and various other peoples to agree on what is going to be done, to prioritize it, to draw up a lesson program and review it, and to prepare for their own small contributory roles, especially the parents. Preferably you do it in several classes in one school and in more than one school, if that's possible, and build it into the in-service teacher development program as well. Inwards, children look at what they themselves do and think and feel about vegetables and their experience, their know-how, their skills. There are a lot of cooking skills in most classes, at least in lower, in lower and middle income countries. They compare what they know and can do and share it with others. And particularly, as somebody mentioned stories, you bring in fictional characters that they can share it with them as well. And they use a little diary, even a tiny, tiny little one, to write down what they do so that they can personalize it. Outwards, for homework, they go to homes, neighbors, community, markets, vendors. I can't see the bottom here. Okay. To ask and get information. Oops. And to act, to take action, and just to report back on the action that they do. Now, forwards is obviously the important thing. people, they think about possible actions. They should have a choice. They should have a choice whether, if they're going to eat more vegetables, they should choose which vegetables they're going to eat. If they're going to cook a dish, they should cook one which they want to eat. They work out how to do it. This is something that happens in class. If you're going to cook a special dish, how are you going to do it? Who's going to help you? You get tips and support, and you try it out at home in small steps. You get feedback, you troubleshoot, you make a photo of what you cooked and a visible output and a plan for maintaining the change. Somebody else already mentioned that. As far as possible, teachers, parents, other classes and other schools share and contribute. Parents will happily contribute, we discovered, if they know what's expected of them and if they've agreed with the program. And they are the main source of food learning for the children. Not to have them on your side is it makes your life hopeless, I think. Then backwards, at all points, children recap, relay, recycle, everything. And the last thing, upwards and outwards. According to the class capacities that you have and the achievements that you've made, you lay on a show for parents, for ministry officials, for whoever you think will appreciate it. Spread the word and tell the world. Okay, thank you. Over to you. Please send in your ideas on the chat.
Thank you, Jane. And yes, keep on sending your ideas in the chat. And thank you again, Jane, for this great contribution. The next session is what we're calling the Word Cafe. So we have 3 experts here with us today, and they will share their experience from their own different contexts. And then so we can try to understand if these experiences can be applied to our own context too. Our first expert is Deborah Olarte. Deborah is a registered dietitian and a postdoctoral researcher at Merrimack College in Massachusetts. Her doctoral dissertation focused on the role that teachers can play in school lunch. So now we will hear from her how we can turn meal times into food education labs. Deborah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario. Hi, everyone. As Dario said, I'm Deborah Olarte. I recently graduated from Teachers College at Columbia University in New York City. I'm also a registered dietitian. I have to say, it is so nice to be here with so many people with similar interests and passions in childhood nutrition and in school meals. And I'm really excited and honored to be here presenting for you today. So I will share my screen and share a little more background on myself. Okay, I think you can all see that. So while I was studying to become a registered dietitian, I interned in a cafeteria in a private school in New York City. And it was actually one of the best culinary experiences of my life because the cafeteria had a team of professional chefs who were whipping up amazing scratch cooked meals every day for the students. So while I was there, I ate very well. But this private school was also in a very socioeconomically diverse neighborhood in New York City. And about a block away was a very poor housing complex. And I couldn't help but think about the students who were living there a block away and attending the local public school who would never have this kind of meal experience at school or maybe ever in their lives. And it was also at this school that I experienced a teacher who would discuss the daily menu with his students and what was going to be served for lunch that day. And it got them very obviously excited to eat lunch. And I always observed the students cleaning their plates, finishing what was on their plates and their trays at the end of the meal. So it was very enlightening. So I tell this story to start because it was a very special experience for me. I was deeply impacted by the inequities I observed in the community, but it also sparked the research into my doctoral dissertation, which was the role that teachers could play in school lunch. So if I say, or when I say school lunch, I also mean school meals in general. But as part of my research, I explored the impact that teachers' childhood school meal experiences have on their current perceptions and the role that they currently play in school meals. So I conducted a workshop with teachers, and I started by asking them to think back to their childhood school lunch experiences. And I encourage you to do the same right now. Think about your school lunch experience as a child. If you didn't have a formal school meals program, just think about what you ate during the day as a child, where you ate, who you ate with, and think about how that could play a role now, your eating habits or experiences that you may have had as a child with food, how they may currently play a role in how you interact with school meals. And while you think, I'll continue to tell you the story of one of my workshop participants. I asked my participants to create drawings of their school lunch experiences. And this drawing was made by a middle school teacher. She told us about her childhood. She grew up poor, and so she ate school lunch every day. In the United States, school lunch is an income-based program. So as a child, she and her best friend ate school lunch together every day. She has very fond memories of eating everything on her tray. She enjoyed the meals, and she enjoyed the social interaction that she had with her best friend. But when she started middle school around 5th grade, 6th grade, her best friend moved away. And she wound up being the only student eating school lunch. And the other students, as you can see sort of at the bottom of this picture, the other students began to make fun of her because she was eating school meals. She experienced what we call school lunch stigma, which many low-income students in the US feel because it distinguishes them as poor. So many students actually wind up not eating anything all day just to uphold their pride. So this participant, she did eat the school meals, but she became more socially isolated throughout middle school. She avoided sitting with the other students. She tried not to be noticed, so she wouldn't be ridiculed. And this was a traumatic experience for her. But flash forward to present day as a middle school teacher, she has a great amount of sympathy for students because she knows how difficult the school meal experience could be for some. So a really great proponent for school meals because she could see the connection between being fed and being able to learn in the classroom. And think about it, when it's really difficult to concentrate when we're hungry. So when a child doesn't eat, how can they focus in the classroom? So this participant went on to explain that she volunteered to be in the cafeteria with the students every day. She could observe who didn't eat and try and figure out why. She'd walk around the cafeteria and act as a healthy role model, and she would eat the meal served and encourage the students to eat as well. She felt that being in the cafeteria allowed her to interact with the students on a more social level, and the students loved her for making that extra effort with them too. However, many of the other teachers in my workshop didn't have this kind of experience, and most of them had very negative things to say about school meals, at least in the United States. So they all saw the importance of playing a greater role in school meals, but they just didn't for a variety of reasons. So here are some of the barriers that they included and discussed. So a lack of food education was one of the things that they discussed, and they felt that they didn't have adequate training to confidently discuss and talk about food with their students. They felt that better food education, perhaps a food education course for educators in college or university, would be helpful, as well as regular professional development. A lot of them did not like being in the cafeteria with their students. They found the environment just to be too chaotic, and in the middle of the day after teaching, they just wanted some peace for themselves. Many of them just discussed it as a place they were afraid to enter. And a lot of them also discussed just needing support from their administrators. If they don't have that administrative support, they feel like they can't move forward. And for the most part, they mostly disliked the food and found it difficult to get behind something that they felt they couldn't promote. But there is a decent amount of research out there on the benefits of school meals. And from my own research and review of the literature, these are a few of the benefits that school meals provides. So a better diet quality. School meals usually provide at least one well-rounded solid meal per day and can reduce the risk of malnutrition. And when consumed regularly, they can improve students' focus and behavior in the classroom, and ultimately their academic performance too. And lastly, from an ecological and climate perspective, regularly consuming school lunch decreases food waste. So to begin to wrap up, in my workshops, I asked the teachers ways they thought that they could realistically play a role in school meals despite the barriers. And these were some of the ideas that they came up with that any teacher could try today, tomorrow, this month, as a New Year's resolution. So the first was to eat the school lunch. And despite the barriers they needed to overcome, the teachers knew that one of the best ways to encourage students to eat school meals was to eat with them. And by eating with them, teachers could improve students' future educational and health outcomes. And eating with them doesn't necessarily have to be every day, but maybe once a week, once a month, just to spend that extra time and interact with the students on a more social level around food. The teachers also discussed gardening with their students as a way to encourage them to eat more fruits and vegetables. And also many decided or discussed advocating for a garden to cafe program where the fruits and vegetables garden that were planted could be served in the school meal. As a way to expose students to more fruits and vegetables as well. And they also discussed organizing school community events. So the school community event could invite parents because parents play the most crucial role in influencing students' eating habits. And lastly, having conversations with their students about the lunch or the meals served. And these conversations could happen before or after the meal or both, but just simple conversations around food. And I should also emphasize though that the teachers felt it was most important to never let their own biases and own personal eating habits influence the way they discussed food with their students. They felt it was very necessary to provide consistent positive messaging about the food served, because it's very easy to say, oh, I don't like asparagus, and then a student can decide that they don't like asparagus either, but they haven't maybe tried it and they don't know. So it's best to keep those own biases to yourself and make the conversation as positive as it can be. So to recap, I asked in the beginning to think about your school meal experiences as a child and how they may play a role to interact with your students around school meals. So I think in an effort to save some time, I continue to ask you to think about and explore how that might work. And maybe tomorrow when you're in the classroom with your students, have a discussion. And pay attention, be mindful of the way you're discussing food. And I'm also going to ask you to think about the ways in which you could start playing a role in school meals. Which way could you try tomorrow or this week or this month or next year, 2022? And whatever you choose, make it a goal to try. Write it in your diary, in your lesson plan, just make it a regular goal or habit to work on. Because because school meals are really an investment in the learner. And when we invest in our children, we're investing in our future. So I just want to thank you all for your time today. It was truly a pleasure to be here and to talk with you. Please feel free to reach out to me at either of these email addresses. Or if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. I'd be happy to answer anything. And thank you. I'll hand it back to Dario now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us, and also for sharing some topics such as school meal stigma and the difference that teachers can actually make in overcoming this. And also actually I took a couple of notes also for highlighting the needs that teachers have, the need for adequate training and professional development. And I saw from the reactions in the chat that these stories were pretty moving and inspired the discussion. So thanks so much. Our second expert is Kathi Landl. Kathi is the CEO of the Association of Nutritional Science in Austria. She's a nutritionist and leading a large nutrition school project in Vienna, and her goal is to teach a conscious but enjoyable approach to oneself's diet. So let's hear from her how she manages to do this in schools. Kathi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Very happy to have the chance to be with you today. And so cool to see how many teachers from all around the world are here. Very excited about that, actually. I'm going to share my screen as well with you, because I also prepared a little presentation. So Dario said already everything that is to say about me, so let's skip this and save the time, I would say. So actually I'm running, as Dario said, a big school project in Vienna. And it's not me alone, it's actually with the public health insurance from Austria. As you might know or have experienced as well, it's sometimes very difficult to implement food education in the regular curriculum, or to change the food meals that Deborah mentioned is also very important. So what we did with the health insurance, we thought about how we as externals, so we are not teachers, we are nutritionists, how we can help the schools and support them in creating healthy living spaces. And healthy, we understand as a very holistic term, actually, which means that the project with the health insurance concentrates not only on nutrition, but also on sports and also psychosocial health, actually. But of course, today we will concentrate on the nutritional part. So what do? We do workshops, we do cooking classes, and we do it not only for students, we do it actually also for parents and for teachers. We are for nutritionists, and we are about in 30 schools per year, where we spend about 300 hours. We do this for all school types, for all age groups, and the most important thing about it, which I assume, is it's completely free for the schools, for the kids, and also for the parents, which is very often, I think, kind of hurdle to implement some projects in the schools. So as very many of you, when they registered, mentioned they want to experience or learn something about what works and what doesn't. I try to concentrate actually on how we're doing things more than the content, because the content anyway has to be adapted a lot based on what is already there. Okay, what works or what works for us? I want to share this experience with you that we had in our project here in Vienna. What always works is for us stimulating and training the senses of the kids. So when it comes to tasting, smelling, even feeling, or even hearing, which not so many connect with food, but think of the apple when you bite in it, right? It tastes much better if it's crunchy. So make the kids experience a lot, and especially with the senses. Without senses, we are not able to enjoy, and if we don't enjoy, we don't indulge in the food topic, right? So what we do is we make them taste, for instance, with closed eyes. We even color, as you see here in the presentation, food and make them experience this surprise moment when you discover you have the same product in 2 different colors and you think you taste the difference because, yeah, I trick you. So we also try to prepare them what the industry very often does. So make them experience and use the senses. What also works, and this was mentioned many times already, the gardening and the learning by doing approach, right? So make them plant the seed, make them see grow the plant, make them see develop the vegetables, and then of course give them the pleasure of harvesting and preparing and of course eating it. Then we all know the kids when they do it themselves, they really enjoy to eat the veggies. So I think this experience is key. Also a very important point is the invitation for participation. So for us, this is especially important. We don't, of course, I think it's very clear for all the teachers, we don't want them to feel forced to do something. They are invited. And with kids, it's anyway not such a problem, right? Because they are curious, they anyway want to do it. It's a bit more challenging with the parents, which we speak afterwards about. Also very important, we have a very individual approach to every class, to every school. So actually, I've never done a workshop twice. So it's never the same that we do. We really get in contact before with the teacher. We speak with them. We see what is already there on knowledge, right? What can we build on? How is which topic is at the moment important for the class? What is the setting there? And then we really adapt our concept individually to every almost person, of course, when we're there, but every class where we go to. And I think this is a very important thing. Of course, it needs a lot of experience and resources in a way. But this we found out works then instead of having one approach for all the schools. This can, of course, not work. And most important, it has to be fun, of course. I mean, if it's fun for the kids and fun for the teacher, then they will stick to it and then they will try to repeat it. I think for kids, most important. Yeah, I think this I don't even have to mention. No forces, no forbidding things, too many expectations. This is things that, yeah, just prevent people from doing it. And the parents, I mentioned it already. And I know from many, many teachers I have classes with that this is always a big, big topic in the school because everybody's aware. And it was also mentioned many times today that if we don't manage to involve the parents, it's very hard to make a difference, right? At the end, the parents or the caregivers are still the people who decide what they buy and what they put on the table most of the time. So if we don't manage to get them into our boat, it will be very difficult. So what works? So regarding the methods, actually the same as for the kids and for everybody. So what I told you about the kids, what worked for us, in the end worked also for the parents. It's about experiences, invitation, learning by doing. And what of course doesn't work, and we really tried this in the beginning, giving them informational material, having special parents' evenings where we tried to share our knowledge and all this stuff. But we discovered very painfully that this is a very sensitive topic. So food and food education at home for many parents was very difficult when we tried to share knowledge about healthy, not healthy snacks. Anyway, the word healthy we don't use anymore so likely, but they felt offended and sometimes even embarrassed because they wanted to do the best for the children, of course, every parent, and then they discovered or felt maybe they didn't. And that makes them defensive, and then you lose them. So for us, very important to get them on board. And what we found for us was the perfect method to do so was the parents' kids together cooking workshops. And this worked amazingly well because it involved all the things that I mentioned before. It was stimulating the senses, all, of course, smelling, tasting, you're doing something with your hands, you're creating something. You offer an experience, and the parents are invited, but they don't have to. So actually how we do it is we invite the parents to a cooking class. Of course, not everybody is coming, but some are coming. And then we divide them into groups, and we create actually a perfect 3-course meal to give them ideas how they could do it. So groups prepare a breakfast, a snack, and a lunch. We give them recipes and ingredients, and then they get active, and the parents are a bit in the lead. So the parents do together with the children create something, and actually without knowing, they're learning a lot by it, right? So they're learning by doing. As I said, it's very individual. Everybody does what he is capable of. Some are just watching. It's fine, right? So everybody is free, and it's a lot of fun for everybody. And in the end, the most important thing, they are creating something together, and then they're enjoying together. And actually, this is already the key experience that makes them indulging in this. And they don't even realize what they learn. And so you, the teachers. Of course, we're doing, as I mentioned, workshops for teachers as well. And of course, we give them ideas for methods, for creative ideas, how to. But I don't want to focus on this now. I just want to give you some thoughts we had in the project to put a bit away the pressure actually from you. Because I know very many teachers are very, very motivated and have a lot of good ideas and plans, but they feel very responsible also for this change in the food behavior. What I want you to leave as a message: you cannot change the parents. You can, of course, give the kids this impulse, and you can invite the parents, but don't make it to your responsibility to change the parents or the environments. This is something you cannot do. You can do the best if you be there for the kids. And please, please, please don't be disappointed if you don't achieve short-term effects. As every behavioral change, also nutritional behavior change is a long-term thing. And don't be disappointed. You have an effect in what you do. It's just not visible immediately. But what you can do, and also Deborah and Jane, everybody I think mentioned it before, be a good role model, eat with the children and enjoy your food. This is already such an important impact you have. So food is something positive, right? Integrate food in many subjects. I think also Melissa said it already in the beginning. Of course, not only counting apples on the tree, but make it an active topic in the subjects. Put experience over knowledge. Also, this was already mentioned. Knowledge is very important, but we all know what we've been told is something, but what we experience, this stays. Create opportunities for food being a topic. Make excursions. Go out, let them see things, cook with them, and invite the parents. And last but not least, I mentioned it before, make nutrition fun, make it an entertaining thing so that people love to do it and the kids will. And last message that I want to say is thank you for being interested in the topic, for making such an effort. I saw so many teachers on the list with different topics and subjects. So not only nutritional teachers. This is so great. So please keep going, and it will make a difference. Thank you, and back to Dario.
Thank you so much, Kathi, for sharing your experience with us. And we know how important it is that an approach is enjoyable in addition to informative. So thank you for sharing what in your experience worked and what didn't, and in particular how a senses-based approach was effective in your experience. And I saw this particular topic stimulated reactions in the chat. And one last thing that I'd like to mention, to underline, is that there's no one-fits-all model. I think that this was the need for a tailored approach was underlined more than once this afternoon. We will continue now with the last part of this World Cafe section with our next expert, who is Estefanía Pihen González. Estefanía is the founding director of the social enterprise E4 Education, and Estefanía will share with us how to integrate food education into Education for Sustainable Development, ESD. Estefanía, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario. I'm going to share my screen because I also have a presentation. So give me a second while I set it up. Can you give me a thumb up if it looks good? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so time is limited, and this is definitely a subject that I'm very passionate about. I have worked as a school principal, school developer, curriculum developer, but mostly as a teacher as well. So some of the things that I'm going to briefly share today, and I invite everybody to take screenshots if I don't have the time to really get into details with some of the strategies and the steps that I'm going to be sharing. So some of these things you might have already heard from other experts today. These might be new, so I'm providing links as well so everyone can access these resources and ideas a little bit more in detail. So basically, what I want to share with you all today, these are experiences that come from different schools, mainly in the Americas and Asia. And what we're utilizing is Education for Sustainable Development, which is part of SDG 4, right? It's specifically goal 4.7. But rather than getting into crazy terms and definitions, what is ESD? And why are we utilizing as a framework so we can embed, so we can bring education for sustainability into our daily classroom? Well, because some of you, before I continue, some of you might know it as Education for Sustainability. So it might be a synonym that rings a bell there. So basically with ESD, what we're allowing is for formal and informal instruction to bring into the learning about and for social, economic, and environmental, local and or global issues, right? This is really important, the for, and perhaps I should have bolded it a little bit more, because sometimes we focus so much on the about, all these problems that are happening, and these issues might seem so heavy, especially if you're 8, 9, 10 years old, right? So with ESD, what we invite teachers is to find ways, very contextualized, based on your own reality, the resources that you have, so you could also bring that learning for these issues. And then we achieve all these amazing things that I have here in these little bubbles. We're cultivating future-oriented systemic thinking. We're moving, we're kind of like stepping back and seeing things as a system and all the different components. We're allowing our students to really think creatively, critically. We're always motivating that sense of innovation and not only in relation to technology, right? This could be something as simple as creating a recipe, right? Or figuring out a way how you can grow food at your school. If your school is in an urban area and you don't have a garden, so how can we do that in our classroom, or we have very limited resources? So all these great things happen, but I think the main thing that we keep finding when we design these lessons, or we work under this beautiful framework, which is more like a very flexible umbrella, ESD, is that learning is relevant, learning is meaningful, and we stop hearing as a teacher that thing that we always hear from our students: why is this useful? When am I going to use these, right? So they start really finding a sense and a purpose for what they're learning. So again, there's many ways, there's many recipes, there's many approaches. So today I just want to give you guys like a scan of some of the things that we utilize so we can bring or we can create lessons under ESD, and that includes food education, right? So one step that it's very useful for teachers is to create what we call integrated lessons. So an integrated lesson really allows you to make a marriage, right? To merge whatever topic you need to teach, whether you are a math teacher, you are a physical ed teacher, you're a science teacher, with a specific topic that can be about and for sustainability. Again, try to always emphasize also on the for, so we avoid that eco-anxiety, right? That can happen when we only focus on the problem. So when we're making these marriage, we're not only allowing the students to meet all those competencies, think about if you were a math teacher and you were teaching 4th grade fractions, so all those abilities, all those skills that your students must achieve or gain after they have learned this specific topic, they're also learning or acquiring all these different sustainability thinking, aptitudes, values. So we're doing 2 amazing things at the same time through these type of integrated lessons. So of course, I do workshops where we have many hours to go through these steps. So I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown on this method. And I'm going to provide a link where you can find very detailed examples of these steps. So in essence, and this is a translation from Spanish to English because it was originally conceived in a school in Costa Rica that I directed. So it's called the IAS method. I stands for the issue. But again, it can be not only about that issue, but the action solutions that are being done to tackle that issue. So what we tell teachers is like, we understand you have a curriculum you have to follow. We understand you have a principal that might be a little strict and might be demanding that specific standards are covered. But just put that on the side for a second and start with the issue. Start thinking about what is it that you're passionate about, that you know a lot about, or maybe you have resources, right? Because sometimes it's difficult to find resources when you're a teacher and you have not a lot of support and you don't have a lot of time. So try to find an issue that is easy for you to start with, specific sustainability issue, and it can be a local. Usually it tends to be a local issue. Then once you're comfortable with that issue, you can move to A. A is identifying the specific academic topic, whether you're working a quarter or a semester. What topic can be an easy entry point for that issue to be brought in, and then you make that marriage, right? And then that's what this A is the process when you start creating the different learning activities where you can cover the academic topic while you're also weaving that specific sustainability issue. And then the last thing we ask the teachers is like, okay, before you turn in your lesson or your lesson plan, make sure that all those competencies, all those standards that your principal, academic supervisor, whomever is it that checks your lessons and approves them, those standards are covered. Okay, so for A, for designing these academic, the learning activities, we always ask the teachers to keep these sustainability learning principles at hand. And I like to use this illustration because we do it literally when we're in person, we put them with sticky notes. I didn't come up with these. This is from experts from, in the field of ESD. So I like to recognize these are not my ideas, but in this field, what we do is share, right? Share knowledge. So have these learning principles at hand while you're designing your specific learning activity. Make sure that they're having an opportunity to, I don't know, perhaps you contextualize learning. Perhaps you're fostering a sense of local and global citizenship. Perhaps you're giving the students an opportunity for them to ideate, propose something like an innovation. And again, it doesn't have to be something that actually happens. I have had second graders propose the most amazing things and we don't have the technology for it yet, and that's fine. We shouldn't be telling them like, oh, that's not technologically possible yet. Well, let's discuss what kind of things we should have in order to get there. So these principles are really useful because I think they're kind of like the homologous of what we would call the academic standards, say for a math class, all those academic competencies. Well, these will be the same for that sustainability learning. When you have them at hand, you don't forget to include them in your learning activity. And these are pedagogies and strategies that really help the teachers achieve the second step by weaving these issues. So, I mean, there's many, these are not the only ones, of course, but these are some of the not only most cited in the literature and different reports and handbooks and toolkits, but the things that I have seen work when I work mainly with schools in rural communities that have very little resources and support from the government. So these really allow you to cultivate these principles, bring your academic content, right? And then do that marriage that I was talking about of a sustainability issue or a solution, right? So I'm not going to get into details of what each one implies. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory. But if you are, I'm going to get to the link where I provide a slide, I'm sorry, where I provide the link where you can read more about these. So when we follow the IAS, we can produce something like these. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's a lot, but basically this is an example of how you can make a connection between, in this case, language arts, adverbs, knowing how to identify adverbs, very academic oriented topic for core subject, language arts, right? And how you can weave, how you can integrate climate change, deforestation, and local organic farming. And on the right, you have the weeks when these happen. You have the type of sustainability thinking that you're fostering. And then how to cover the material basically is telling you what type of learning activities you're doing. So you can do both the learning about and for the issue, but at the same time, learning how to identify and use adverbs properly when you're constructing sentences. So as probably some of you already noticed, it's the I is here, then it's followed by the A, and then the last thing is the S, the standards. So the teacher only, this case is a copy paste from a national curriculum that said, these are the standards that need to be covered. So what the teacher does is when she gets or he gets to this point, they just go back and check that these standards have been met through all these different activities. Now, an example, many examples of this IAS method can be found in these publications, very recent with UNESCO, IBU UNESCO, specifically in chapter 17, and you'll find examples of the pedagogies, and you will find examples from the IAS method, and you're welcome to take a screenshot, and I don't know if Dario might share these with you all, but it's really useful because I'm kind of like running through it, but once you read it, you'll be able to contextualize it. And I do want to emphasize the importance of contextualizing it to your own reality, right? Your own course subject, whether it's core or non-core, and where you are. And I read in the chat, some people were saying, well, we don't have a lot of access to veggies in my country. Well, what is it that you do have access, right? So contextualize it and don't take things as this is the only way you can do it. This is a tool so you can adapt it to your own reality. Just to finish, I'm gonna quickly share some examples from this other toolkit. These might resonate a lot with those of you that are located in the tropical belt. But again, these are projects that you can definitely adapt and adjust and modify. It doesn't matter where you are. The link to the publication is there, and it's basically a compilation of projects, different sections focusing different parts. And I'm just going to give you examples from projects that we did at a school in Costa Rica and school in Indonesia that really supported the development of healthy and sustainable cafeterias. Both schools, very, very low budget. We barely had any resources. So our motivation not only came from the understanding, the logic that we saw when we were designing these type of projects, but also because we had little money. So it was interesting what a low budget can do when you take it as the right motivator. So the toolkit includes a lot of information. It tells you the type of materials that you need, the exact steps, which grades should be involved, and what do they do? What do the kindergartners do? What do the high schoolers do? And then it also tells you how that academic integration, how that marriage that I talked about at the beginning is done. So these one's specific for herb gardens, and these doesn't have to happen in the outdoors. If you're in a place where growing outside is just not possible, you can modify these and create beds within inside your classroom. There's another example for how to create veggie and fruit gardens, and how to merge that or bring that, into science, social studies, language arts, and mathematics. And again, it tells you the steps, the materials, and who should be involved. This is in Costa Rica. This is a great example where we brought local organic farmers. The person here holding the shovel, you can't tell, but he was like 88 at the time that we took the picture. And that knowledge that he had on how to grow specific foods during specific times of the year, it's a knowledge that we want to preserve. And it was amazing how we could bring it into the core subjects, like I said, science, mathematics, and language arts, and how much our students learn. And in the upper right, the girls are designing these gardens. The last example is a fish pond. Also in Costa Rica, we needed to find a way to get protein in a cheap way, because we supported 80% of our students through scholarships, and food needed to be part of their scholarship, what they got. And again, we were very limited in resources, in budget. So we, with the help of a lot of amazing people, we built a fish pond where we were growing tilapia. And this was integrated into mathematics, language arts, and social studies. So again, the toolkit gives you guys specific steps, materials, and even addresses the challenges, because it wasn't so simple like, oh, we all dug this beautiful hole. It was really easy. And then we pour some cement. There were many, many challenges, but in those challenges, we always found important lessons and insights, right? And just to conclude, when we're doing these type of lessons, right, when we're applying ESD as this flexible umbrella that provides contextualization, we are really, I'm just saying the same thing everybody already said. We're giving our students, the knowledge, values, skills, aptitudes to face the challenges that lie ahead. We are giving them a very scary world and a lot of very serious threats coming their way. And instead of presenting these in a very scary scenario, we're saying, hey, we can get all those skills and the knowledge, and we can work together collaboratively as a group, a society, and also individually to really find these meaningful ways to tackle these problems. But I also think that it allows the teachers to kind of remove themselves from that position where traditional systems have them, where they're just giving information, and it places them next to the students. So everyone's co-learning. And then you are also opening doors to learn from people from maintenance, gardening, administration, like all levels of the school. So it's a very powerful framework, and it really allows everyone to work together. And if anybody has any questions or wants to get a hold of me, there's my email, and I'll be happy to, answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Estefanía, for sharing all of this with us. And thanks again to Jane, Deborah, and Kathi for sharing their experiences before and earlier. It's now time to get our hands dirty again. So Yenory Hernandez is a nutrition consultant at FAO, and will explain the next activity, which we will then do as a whole group, so we won't do breakout rooms again. It will also be the final session of our intensive lab, so bear with us just a little longer. Yenory, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dario, and thank you, everybody. I'm beyond happy to be here in this lab and also in this activity in which we will do three things. First, we're going to reflect. Second, capitalize. And third, we're going to share. So please stay with us these last minutes of this lab, because here is where we are going to end up seeing all the collective actions that hopefully we can put into practice right after this lab. And how are we going to do these 3 activities? Well, we are going to go and use Jamboard again. My colleagues, Dario or Tomas, are going to help me, and they're going to share with you the link in the chat box. So please go ahead, open that link, because this activity, we're gonna do it in plenary. Let me go ahead and share the Jamboard slides. Okay, can you see it? Yes, okay, perfect. So we have 4 slides, and this session is called Big or Small and Let's Act Now. The first slide is the pineapple slide. And as you can see, the pineapple is so happy and she's celebrating. Why? Because this is a huge celebration. We are all together here to see how we can revolutionize food education in school. So this pineapple slide is for the instructions. So let's pay attention to them. So the first thing, as I said, is to open the Jamboard link. Then we will have the pineapple slide with instructions. Then we will move to slide 2 that is about the purpose. Here's where we are going to reflect. Then we have a slide 3 that is a spinach, like Popeye, right? Like, what is our superpower? What is this new skill that we got in this lab? And the slide 4 is the rainbow salad. What are all those collective actions that will be so colorful, so inspireful, that we are gonna take after this to revolutionize food education in school? So we are going to go through each slide all together. Please be very proactive, put in the sticky notes with your comments, and let's not move until I indicate so. Now, we are a bit behind the agenda. So the idea was to do this in 15 minutes. If we can do it in a shorter time, that would be wonderful. So I invite you to become like Flash, right? Because we have to be very fast. And from now, we're gonna do ready, set, go. So let's start with the slide tomato. So if you are in the slide tomato, here we have the heart. Because we can think about a lot of activities, but at the end of the day we have to think of why. Why are we doing what we are doing in the first place? And this is when we're talking about revolutionizing food education in the schools. Please take a moment to close your eyes and at the same time, to think about those children, those teachers that you also work with, those parents. What is the change that you want to see in them in terms of food education, in terms of their eating habits, eating patterns, food decisions? Please, I invite you to put your sticky notes in there. We can take here like about 2 minutes. So I see here to empower children to take charge of their own food learning process. Wonderful. End child food poverty. To ensure all school children can have a positive relation with food. This is very, very important. To empower children to make better, to improve health. To ensure no one is left behind. And I hope that that each of you that are writing these comments, as I said, which are those faces that we already work with, that we know that with our actions we can make a change. So wonderful to give food its real value. Youth are our educators now. Yeah, definitely, to improve quality of life. So I think these are wonderful notes that definitely put together the purpose. Why are we doing what we are currently doing in the first place? If we're clear about that purpose, then now I believe you can continue putting your sticky notes, please. You're welcome to do so. But how about if we move to the other one, that is the spinach? And I would like to invite you to think about what is your superpower. And please, in this sticky note, I will invite you to put your name. What is your superpower? And what is this new learned skill that you get today to revolutionize food education in schools? And this is very important because we already have a purpose and we want to reach that purpose. So we have tons of powers, because that's one of the main things of teachers. It's unlimited, the powers that you'll have. But what is one that you definitely think that is a super one, and that is skill that will help to reach that purpose? So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can do a lot with reusing, repurposing, put its students at the center, the driving seat. Other superpowers, again, and if you want to put your names, your superpower, new skills, make it practical and relevant. to never stop learning about food and how to help others connect with the food in a positive way. Marty, motivation, it will help me motivate the students to understand the value of food. One of the superpowers is to understand the student issues with food. I like this one very much. One superpower is to be able to change children's minds in the way they choose their food. Relentlessly positive change is possible. All right. Other superpowers. I have a 4-year-old and he's all about the Avengers and the superpowers. So I'm pretty sure that we have a lot of super food heroes in here. That's why we're all together. Actually, the first action for change is to learn, to understand, to be all on the same page. So I think that we already reached that objective. Real concrete learning, making things practical, relevant. How about making things fun, like our colleagues mentioned? Yeah, making food a fun. All right, motivating, inspiring children about healthy values. Okay, so I think we have a nice collection of superpowers in here. Constant exposure to food. Who have, like, for example, the superpower of beyond working with children, being able also to reach other teachers, policymakers, to say, you know what? We need food education in the schools for all children in the world. That would be an amazing superpower, because we can do amazing things in the classroom, but at the end of the day, we need an enabling environment, the necessary supports and resources to be able to do so in a sustainable manner. Using food for citizenship. Okay, so now, how are we doing with time, Daria? I hope we're doing the flash superhero right now. Now we're gonna move to the last one, I believe. Yeah, so this one. This one is the crucial one. We're clear about our purpose. We're clear about our superpowers. We also had a lot of experiences shared today. Now, if you have to choose one concrete action that you know that you can do right after this lab, which one will be? So you can either put them, we can talk about actions at the level of food education in the classroom or beyond the classroom. What can you do to link food education with school meals? Deborah provided some examples that you can do as a follow-up, right? What can you do at food education with a wider community, even when the resources are not available? And what other things you can do? So please, right now we have around 20 participants. So I would love to see at least 20 sticky notes in here. So go ahead, I just see 2. So I would like to invite you. Send the white paper link to those advising in the Department for Ed in England again today. That's wonderful. And just to let you know, there are some other complementary materials that Dario is going to share. So those will be useful also. Share this recording with others and maybe start my own lab. Report of this webinar and post link to inform others. How about actions in relation to activate what you're currently doing for food education? How can you make it more behavioral-based approach, or actions that you can do with to link the school meals with food education? So let's see. Encourage students to get involved with all aspects of the school food, special food in school, to have a school campaign about food waste, including the school community, that includes awareness of food value as a need, to reduce food waste and to promote health. Classroom discussions about the meal served, school community events, making new programs for children and their parents in refugees situations, eat school meals with the students, and in there you can do an entire teaching session, right? Using food as the main tool for teaching. Making new programs for children, and their, I already read that one, sorry. Is that sticky notes are moving too fast. I don't have the power of being that fast. Let me see. Share recipes, encourage cooking at home, gardening with the students, share all I learned today with my team and the community, and especially with the person who take decisions in my country at local level. advocate to include food education as part of teachers training program, yes, please do so, and then contact us and we will be happy to share all the materials. And there are some capacity development modules that are coming on their way, so we'll be very happy to share those with you. So I see here more notes taking coming. I hope that we have at least the 20 ones that I see here as a participant, but let me make use of this time to do a conclusion and to tell you that as educators, I currently work with FAO, with the FAO team, but prior to that, I used to work with at the school setting, with children, with teachers. So at the end, we are all here as educators. And as educators, we have multiplicity of functions. One is to share the knowledge that we gain, the skills that we gain to our students. Then to make sure that this new knowledge and skills are assimilated in a natural and effective way, also in a fun way. And third is to teach with the example, right? Because then we can tell them that our actions, rather if they're big or if they're small, they can change lives. And here is where all these actions, where I want to really motivate you to put all of these individual actions into practice, because when we put them into practice, then we will see a collective reaction in change, just like a domino. And here is that impact, the profound impact that we want to see. And the profound impact is that if we go back to our purpose, when I told you, imagine those faces of those children, of those teachers, of those families, what do we want to see? Well, we want to see food competent, reactive, and proactive children's families, school teachers that can be part of this change, in where we want to promote healthy diets, and where we want to be also agents of change on our local food systems. So thank you one more time to be here with all of us. We really appreciate the time that you have allocated to be here with us for more than 1 hour, and all these actions, we hope to follow up and to see all of them a reality. And please know that we're here to support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Yenory, for using your superpower, making your session flash while also full of content and ideas and inspiration. It was also great to see all the different commitments that all of you participants made in the session. And the jam will actually remain open for a few more days. So don't hesitate to add sticky notes if you want to share something else. Actually, if you're also active on social media, let's keep the conversation going. So share your thoughts and experiences using My School Food as an hashtag. We'll copy it, we'll paste it in the chat now. And this way we will be able to find your posts and engage with them. On a final note, we will shortly paste the link to the shared folder. And in a few days, we will also share a very brief survey, which we would be really grateful if you could spend a few minutes to let us know what you enjoyed of this lab and what you think we could actually improve. Before we close, I will give the floor to Fatima and Deepika for their final thoughts on the session. And so Fatima, the floor is yours. Fatima?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Dario. And thank you, everyone, for being so patient and to be with us today. I think today was a very rich lab. I hope you have enjoyed it. There are many elements of the approach that we explained to you at the beginning of this lab through the detailed presentation of Melissa. And I think all the other speakers have contributed to the different aspects of this holistic vision. So there's nothing more that I can say than thanking you for being active and being with us all this period. And just to say that if you have any requests or inquiries and you want to speak with us or write to us, you are most welcome. You have our emails, and I encourage you to come up with ideas if you have ideas for your schools or for your countries, and we will see how and if we can assist you. Thank you very much again, and I think now we see that we are over the time, but Deepika, the floor is yours if you want to say a few words of thanking the for thanking the participants. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Fatima. And I would just like to say one thing. And this quote you all might have heard: tell me and I forget, and teach me. And I think Melissa is now laughing. Teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. And that's all. That's what we have done today. And I'm so glad that this is kind of a community of practice where we have come together, shared our thoughts, experiences, and really good practices. And I'm sure this learning will continue. So thanks to the FAO team and all of you and all the experts that have contributed their time. We'll definitely continue the learning, and good luck and good evening and good day wherever you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepika. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, everyone. We're at the end of this session. Thanks so much to all of you for staying online over time. I know it's very late for some of you, especially in the Asian region. So I would just ask you to turn on your cameras just one last time so we can, for just a big collective wave, and then we'll close the session. Thanks again, everyone. And thanks to our experts. Thanks to our colleagues, and thanks to all for staying online. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, cutie. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
This was very inspiring. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Have a nice afternoon and evening, everyone.